welcome to our second town hall with our CEO, Tim Russell. Typically, Tim would save this for our annual convention out in Florida, but obviously we're moving virtual this year, so Tim is going to give his opening remarks and officially kick off our 2-week virtual convention, and look forward to taking some questions from you all. Thank you to those who submitted your questions early, but we'll definitely be taking questions later, so please put them in the chat box once Tim has made his way through his remarks. Busy few weeks ahead. We have our roundtables later today. Hopefully some of you have signed up for those. You still have plenty of time to do that. We also have operating committee meetings. We have board of director meetings on Friday and Saturday. We have the operating council next Monday. And then we start off the educational side of things next Tuesday, December 8th. So if you haven't registered for the convention, please do so. There's still some spots available. But with that, I'll turn you over to our CEO, Tim Russell. Thank you, Tim.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this call. And thanks, Dave, for getting us organized and for everything you do. Hopefully everyone had a terrific Thanksgiving weekend and everybody's ready to work for our association. Appreciate Dave's not only organizing, but referencing all that we've got over the next 2 weeks. I'd like to begin by thanking our staff, certainly thanking the ITA board, our hardworking chair, John Vagosin, and certainly all of the sponsors of the ITA. What I'd like to do today is to offer some highlights from the summer and fall, point to a few challenges and issues that are facing us, and then provide answers to some questions that were submitted. And on the fly, if there's other questions that people want to put in the chat box, we'll try to get to those as well. So from my perspective, some major projects and accomplishments for the ITA and our association. The first was, I think, the implementation of the new ITA tour, the fall and winter circuits. I've written to all of our coaches a number of times, and I've shared with both the coaches and our operating committees that we've had several goals at the ITA this fall. One is to continue to shine a light on college tennis, and to that end, our marketing and communication teams, I think, have done a terrific job. I will encourage everyone, if you don't follow us on our 4 social channels from Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, to do so, and also to make sure that on a daily basis you're going to the ITA website. Several years ago, the ITA website really wasn't worth going to, and one of the goals we had a number of years ago was to create more of a destination website, not only for the ITA, but for college tennis, and I'll speak a little bit more about that later. We've worked really hard this fall to try to improve our communication with all of you as members. We've not only had a series of newsletters that I've sent out, but we've also implemented these virtual town halls. We've reorganized coach governance with Dave Mullins taking leadership in this regard, and certainly appreciate his work, and then the ongoing work of Corey Brooks and his team, and in the worlds of D2, 3, NAI, and junior college, Justin Cerny. We've clearly been doing a lot of planning for not only spring of 21, but fall of 21 and beyond. I will talk a little bit more going forward, but certainly we are very excited about some of our diversity and inclusion initiatives, including efforts that Dave and I have made reaching out to coaches at our HBCUs, as well as athletic directors and commissioners. We continue to build out our technology with Club Spark, and I'll address some of this even in a question that was submitted. We do have a new online platform for memberships, and we're building out our championships and competition area as well. Clearly, the creation of the virtual coaches convention has obviously been a new challenge for our staff, and certainly appreciate all of their efforts. We've upgraded our ITA Health Index. Hope everyone has seen that and is using that. And we've initiated a new set of college tennis advocacy videos. So again, if you visit our website, if you haven't done so, you'll find an advocacy page, you'll find a series of videos and the like. And then finally, the ITA has been doing some initial business development analysis of what possible role the ITA could have in the high school space. When we think about our future, I think we want to make sure that our future is strong, and we really want to make sure that there's a seamless flow from high school players to college. I think most of you know, especially if you talk to your colleagues within your athletics departments, that many coaches associations, about 2/3 of them, are not only coaches associations for college, but also in the high school space. In just a moment, I'll touch on a terrific initiative that Bruce Waschuk, who's our Chief Digital Officer, has been undergoing with the Texas Tennis Coaches Association in the world of Texas high school tennis. A couple of remarks from each of our departments. I think everyone recognizes the work that Corey Brooks and his team does with championships, rankings, rules, and officials. I think the major takeaway from the last 6 months has been the championship department's ability to be nimble and quickly adapt to the rapidly changing tennis environment that was caused by the coronavirus pandemic. You know, many sports are basically effectively closed down, and the ITA quickly identified solutions that allowed us to offer new playing opportunities at all levels across the country and to establish tennis as a safe social distancing sport. When a lot of people said it wasn't going to be possible, the ITA actually ran 28 of our summer circuit events. We, I think, demonstrated that we could run these events in a safe and responsible manner. And I'm proud to report that over 3,000 players competed in 2020. We had 3,800 in 2019. So I think everybody will agree there was a big pent-up demand for people to play tennis. Over 4,000 matches were played. We also had the Oracle ITA National Summer Championships. This was hosted at Texas A&M. We held a 32 qualifying and 64 main draw singles only event, and there was $15,000 in prize money. When it became clear that fall tennis was not going to happen in its usual way in the college world, we then, as I mentioned earlier, expanded on the summer circuit and provided 140 tournaments across the country, thousands of match play opportunities. And what we tried to do is build on the summer circuit model and tried to incorporate flighted play with draws no larger than 32 and tournaments that lasted no longer than 3 days. We did host our 2020 Oracle ITA Masters. This was a singles only event at the Barnes Tennis Center. The finals were televised on ESPNU, and this was an open prize money event that featured collegiate players, high-level juniors, and professionals all competing within one draw. And this is a model that I want to call your attention to, because I do think that there are lessons we are all learning from the pandemic, including the need for more regional play, less travel, etc. And I do think that over the years to come, you can see that we're going to continue to pilot this idea of incorporating events with high-level elite junior players, college players, and young professionals. If you didn't follow the event in San Diego, you'll realize that a couple of high-level juniors beat some of the top seeds. That in the end, on the men's side, for example, Brandon Holt is a young professional, won the tournament, but in fact, he had three set matches along the way. think all of us agree that one of the things we need to do in America is to make systems of play, patterns of play, more efficient and more effective, where more people are getting better faster. We did host the 2020 ITA Cup. I mentioned that the fall did not occur as it usually does. The one space where it really did was at the NAIA institutions. And so usually our ITA Cup, as you know, had the history of being called the Small College Championships. This year it was just NAIA institutions. We featured them at the Rome Tennis Center, and it was a great way to shine light on NAIA tennis. We did administer 20 small college regional championships and 2 Division I regional championships across the country. As well, we hosted the 2020 Oracle ITA National Fall Championships. This happened at the USTA National Campus in Lake Nona, and the finals again were televised on ESPNU. And then right now we're in the middle of the ITA Winter Circuit by UTR, where again the summer went well, the fall went well, and so we added a 3-week circuit containing 21 events. Again, in the world of Corey's domain, the world of officials, we continue to be grateful for the leadership and support of our officials. There were 50 certification webinars. As of the end of October, we had almost 1,200 officials certified, and this is a real tribute to them wanting to participate whenever we have tournaments to run. So we were not only putting on tournaments in the fall for people to play in, but certainly grateful that our officials were ready to go. The officials committee continues to do a great job in the world of continuing education. And if you haven't noticed already in the fall, you will in the spring notice that our officials are now outfitted in new uniforms. The color has changed, the product has changed, and this was the product of a lot of good work on behalf of our National Officials Committee. As I move to the world of community engagement, I think all of us continue to say that the success of college tennis programs is ensured when all of you are completely embedded on your campuses and in your communities. One of the things that we did at the ITA when Dave Mullins was hired was we made an increased commitment to coach education, to governance. I've referenced the high school space, and also an incredible new program called Tennis for America, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But hopefully you're all following the amazing work that Dave Mullins, our managing director, is doing, including the launch of the College Coach Masterclasses. 10 chapters have been already released. The launch of the College Coach Drill Space. Dave's been conducting 1 educational webinar per month, 2 in November, 8 new podcasts, 8 coach education newsletters, and then a lot of work with the new ITA USTA mentorship program. 13 mentees, 9 women, 4 men. A reminder about the launch of Tennis for America, where the ITA and college tennis are trying to take the lead in demonstrating how a sport can be involved with the National Service Initiative that General Stanley McChrystal and our ITA achievement winner John Bridgeland have founded. I think a lot of people know programs like Teach for America, Habitat for Humanity, but through Dave's hard work and the cooperation with the AmeriCorps Vista program, we now have 8 recent college graduates doing work in 4 sites around the country, trying to build the world of the ability to solve poverty and to do it in unique ways. So to be working with NJTLs around the country, those include the Sloan Stephens Foundation in California, Excess Tennis in Chicago. We have the JTCC on the East Coast, and I'm blanking. Dave's going to help me in just a moment. Number 4. I'll come back to that. Dave?
NYJTL, Tim.
Oh, thanks. How can we forget New York City? Geez, I'm sorry. Year 2 applications have opened on November 16th, and we're adding 4 additional sites in year 2 in Las Vegas, Cleveland, Rhode Island, and Houston. One of the things we've been doing in the world of governance is monthly calls with the Division I Operating Committee. We're trying to have these committees be more coach-led. We've had subcommittees that have included championships, rankings, mid-majors, and broadcasting. And then we've had 10 conference calls with Division II, III, NAIA, and junior college. I did reference this idea of conducting research in the high school space. Really grateful to some interns who've helped us do some survey research in that area. In addition to the HBCU conversations we've had, Dave and I have been involved with a conversation with the PTR on trying to find long-term ways to increase the number of coaches of color within our college coaching ranks. The NFL, for example, has developed a really good model in this regard, and we're trying to figure out how we can do a better job in the world of college tennis. We've also conducted many calls with coaches and ADs and presidents when programs have been eliminated to try to lend support where possible. And just so you know the kind of things Dave has also been doing, he's been assisting the New Jersey Institute of Technology in finding a new conference, for example. So lots going on behind the scenes. In the world of things like awards, I think everyone recognizes that historically the ITA has had one of the largest and most diverse, expansive awards programs in all of intercollegiate athletics. We did create a video for our leadership winners this year that included the Ann Lebedeff Award, the Arthur Ashe Leadership and Sportsmanship Awards, and that video included messages from Billie Jean King, Chrissy Everett, David Benjamin, Katrina Adams, and previous award winners. We're going to be announcing this year's Meritorious Service Award winner soon, and we continue to work on projects related to our both women's and men's halls of fame. In terms of the world of marketing and communication, I do want to continue to give a shout out. I've referenced our website becoming a destination content-rich go-to source for college information. If you haven't been going there regularly, please do. You'll see that it's organized for all the divisions. We've created 52 videos over the fall. There have been 175 WordPress articles and posts from July to the middle of November. We've also launched a new ITA newsletter. There are already 6,000 subscribers. If you have not subscribed, you can go to the website and do so. We would encourage you to forward that link to all of your contact lists. It's a way that we can continue to spread the word about the ITA and college tennis. Again, the idea of following us on social media and the idea of the college tennis advocacy page. In the world of social media, we've already surpassed 20,000 followers on Twitter. And we're also now part of what's called the Tennis Industry United newsletter, where that goes out every Tuesday. Many of you might get that, and that already has 100,000 subscribers. So that's another way that we've been really able to boost spreading the news about college tennis. I referenced this pilot project that Bruce Waschuk's been doing with the Texas Tennis Coaches Association. It started with phase 1, trying to have dual match reporting in 3 districts. And then a big phase 2 was the Texas State Championship playoffs. So lots of good work where we're trying to demonstrate leadership in a broad way, trying to really have high school coaches, high school players, parents get more interested in college tennis. In the world of membership, sponsorships, and fundraising, the good news is we have maintained all but one of our ITA sponsors. I cannot tell you what a big deal this is because a lot of them have had tough financial goes. Corey Pegram and his team have done an amazing job trying to provide value to those companies who continue to be supportive of you, your programs, and the ITA as an association. I mentioned the ESPNU broadcast. We were able to not only put on our new PSA, but also commercials for our sponsors. In the world of membership, we continue to try to provide as much value as we can to coaches. I do want to say, when I reference some of the challenges, we've had 600 team memberships renewed to date. That's compared to almost 1,200 at this time last year. We do recognize that some of that downturn is due to frozen budgets, teams not competing. We are hopeful that with the spring season to come, teams will renew so that they can not only enter their scores, but have their players eligible for awards. I'm very excited today to announce the creation of a new Coach Emeritus membership. This is going to be launched for retired coaches in the coming weeks and will include some benefits for them to attend future coaches conventions. I think a really important accomplishment for this fall was the launch of an ITA annual fund campaign. Proud to announce that we've raised over $42,000, and that includes donations from our board of directors. We've also had successful virtual alumni events and chapters in such cities as DC, Phoenix, and Columbus. Some of the lessons that I think we have learned are obviously, in my opinion, and I've been saying this since I took this job in 2015, and I gave, I think, some very direct and potentially dire forecasts in 2018, that the college sports model really isn't sustainable. And I think we're seeing that being borne out even more. In the world of tennis, I've referenced things like trying to have play become more regional. I can tell you that moving forward, we'll have a little bit more formal announcement at the end of our convention, but for those of you who've been kind enough to join today, we are going to be doing an actual formal study of the Division I business model in the world of tennis, and obviously it will have implications for the other 5 divisions as well. So be on the lookout. If you attend our convention, the virtual session, the very last one on Thursday, the 10th, is a session called Reimagining College Tennis, where we will roll out a little bit more, but I did want to at least preview that we are trying to be proactive in this regard. When the pandemic hit in April and then again revisiting in September, the ITA and USTA together had put forward an ad hoc task force that included current and former college presidents, commissioners, ADs, some coaches, some members of our board of directors. So we are trying to make sure that the ITA lives into its vision, which is to not only create a sustainable business model for college tennis, but to be a leader in not only the world of intercollegiate athletics, but the world of tennis globally. And to that end, you should know that I've been serving since the pandemic hit on a group that the USTA put together called Tennis Industry United. It's a group that Mike Dowse, the new CEO and executive director of the USTA, put together that has not only the USTA and the ITA, but the PTR, the USPT, the TIA, the complete alphabet soup of the world of tennis. And I think it's a tribute to the new leadership of the USTA, where they are trying to be a service organization in partnership with their allied partners. And so I'm proud to serve on that group. You should know that some of their initiatives, and they're trying to be pretty laser focused. The two that have risen to the top are advocacy and diversity. You'll be hearing more about that and those over the months and year to come. So as we come down to a last couple of areas before we go to questions, I want to talk about the finances. One of the things that I did for the first time in the history of the ITA when I took this job was to try to become very transparent with our finances. And when I put out the video announcing this meeting today, I did say that this meeting would constitute the meeting of our association. And as I've done at the last couple of conventions, I've put a slide up that talks about our finances. You should know that a couple years ago, our board of directors thought that a good business practice was to have an annual audit, which we implemented a couple of years ago. We're going to be getting a very clean audit, which I think is a tribute to our business practices. You should know that the ITA assets total approximately $3.5 million. That's broken out where 2.9 million are in general funds and 600,000 have donor restrictions, of which within the 600,000 we have two endowments that together total $450,000. Those were endowments that were given by Billie Jean King and Stan Smith in the second and third years of my tenure. Our budget projections, to be very transparent, are threefold. The most likely budget on an approximately $2 million budget is about a $500,000 deficit. A large part of that is due to the non-renewal of a number of our programs. If certain other things were to go wrong, we could have up to $1 million deficit, which we do not anticipate, but I think we're trying to be good stewards. If not only college tennis is played in the spring and our renewals come back and our sponsors renew, we could have even closer to a balanced budget, which we've done over the last 5 years. So do want to always be very transparent with all of you. At the moment, our board made what I thought was a very smart decision throughout the pandemic, which was to maintain a full staff. We did not furlough anyone, and I can tell you that I'm very proud of the work that they've been doing, working not only hard, but smart and creatively. I think over the years I've been fond of saying, and I'm sure you'll agree with me in your role as leaders, that it's easy to be a leader, or at least easier to be a leader when everything's going great. The signs, I think, of strong leadership occur in times of challenge. So our staff has been working very hard on your behalf, on behalf of your student athletes, on behalf of our sport and our association. We are hoping that things obviously turn around. I think a lot of people are optimistic about a vaccine and some new normal, but I do caution us not to believe that that is to say that everything's going to go back to how it's always been in terms of your budgets, in terms of how sports are played and the like, which is why we're always trying, in the words of Doug Conant, to lead in 3 time zones: past, present, and future. So certainly we want to celebrate the past and the great history of college tennis and the ITA. We want to be cognizant of what's going on today, but continue to plan for a bright tomorrow. The final topic that I would like to address before I go to the questions is just to make sure that all of you are starting to become familiar with the world tennis number. The ITF is rolling out the world tennis number. They'll be doing it over the next couple of months. And the theory is to create a common currency. It is a rating. We all know that there might be 20,000 ratings out there. The ITA in college tennis did a great job 10 and 15 years ago to actually support the evolution of the universal tennis rating. It's something that all of you have come to use in your recruiting, and junior players and parents have obviously become familiar with. But do know that the ITF is rolling out their version of a rating, whereas UTR goes from 1 to 16, where the Nadal, Djokovic, Federers are the 16. The world tennis number, as I understand it, will roll out and have a scale from 40 to 1, where the top players in the world are 1. And so I think over the next several years, all of you will have to get some acclimation to the WTN. The one thing I will tell you that I believe is going to be a terrific upside for college players is the use of the WTN as a common currency for entry into ITF events. And I believe the plan is that it will then eventually become an entry, selection, and seeding into ATP and WTA, while that might be a little ways off. But I do think that we're going to need to be cognizant of what the world looks like in the tennis space, but specifically the college tennis space, when we have universal tennis as well as the world tennis number. So with that, I'd like to just turn to some questions that were posed in advance, and certainly gratitude to those of you who sent them in advance. And then if you have additional questions, please type them into the box, and Dave Mullins will be the moderator there. So let me just start with some of the questions that those of you on the call, and maybe you're not on the call, had submitted, and I just need to call those up here. The first one read like this: most times it seems that the majority of initiatives, programs, and events that the ITA puts its focus on are specifically focused on a very small number of teams and programs. For example, All-American, Oracle Masters, Kickoff Weekend, National Indoors, and end-of-year tournaments, despite the fact that the organization is supposed to be focusing on growing and improving all of college tennis. What are you doing to try to improve national opportunities for mid-majors, D2 and 3 programs to be able to participate in these programs or other new programs, so that we are not constantly looked at merely Power 5 competitive fodder for padding their records, but never get to compete in these premier events? So that's a pretty hefty question, and I'm happy to give my best answer, while I might give a little pushback to its premise. So over the last 5 years, I will say for certain that one of the declarations I made when I took this job was a commitment to serve all of college tennis, and I'll try to give a couple examples. One, we used to have a D1 operating committee and then a small college operating committee. Very early on, we actually broke the small college operating committee into 4 other operating committees. So now every division has its own operating committee, and I think those various divisions have been grateful for that opportunity. In terms of programs, because some of the things that were referenced as programs were really championships, which I would like to submit is not all of what the ITA does. One of the first things that I inherited was the Oracle Masters, where Mark Hurd wanted a small elite event for 16 of the top players. And Erica Jasper and I very quickly turned this into a tournament that had 32 draws of men and women, and it was constituted where there would be representatives of all 31 Division I conferences. And I think this was also very well received by the mid-major programs. In terms of national indoors, there was a good push from Division II to add a D2 indoors, which we've done. So just a reminder that we do have 6 national team indoors, men and women D1, men and women D2, and men and women D3. We are working hard to try to put those on this year in spite of some of the health and safety challenges. But I would also like to morph away from, well, I'd like to say one more thing about championships. The questioner also said an end of year tournaments. I think a reminder that the ITA stops its championships at the end of February with the national team indoors. So obviously it's the NCAA and the NAIA junior college that run the end of year. I can say in regard to things like the end of year, we do have a mid-major study committee right now that is looking at programs such as an NIT type tournament. So much like the evolution of the Oracle Masters and the D2 indoors, we are working on adding those championships. But the biggest thing I would try to remind people as I intersect a few threads here, including communication, we've tried very hard in the fall to let everybody know of all the things that the ITA does. And that includes rules, that includes officials, that includes all the coach education things that Dave Mullins has done, all of the community engagement programs. So I would like people to really think of the ITA as doing more than running championships. I think that's what people saw us when I took over almost 6 years ago. And it's still a very important part of what we do, but we'd like to think that the implementation of a new website that features all of the divisions actually improves things for all of the divisions. The articles that we write on non-Power 5 programs, the social media work that we do, clearly the work that's being done in coaching, education, governance, and the like. So in the world of championships, I can assure you that we are, looking at things like the NIT. I can't speak to how that might evolve given the current pandemic, but we really have tried to do a couple things. One, to have people think of the ITA as more than just tournaments. One of our challenges, quite honestly, has been, the lack of engagement on a large number of our coaches. And this clearly would be a classic example of like the minister preaching to the choir, because the 145 of you who are on the call today are obviously engaged, and I thank you for that. But very often we send out 3,000 emails and might have an open rate of 10%. I might send out a 10-page newsletter to make sure everybody knows of all the things we do. Again, small open rate. So we're doing our best to let you know of everything we're doing, but I can assure you that one video that I've pondered is, what would it look like if we had a video with all these things in it and we kept taking stuff, away. So while I appreciate the intent of the question, I do want people to know that at least our current staff and board think that we are really doing things other than championships. But even in the world of championships, it was not as obvious to some of you this year, but our board actually made a commitment of $40,000 to reduce the costs for mid-majors and small colleges to actually play the regionals. The problem is that the regionals didn't happen. So I would encourage you to be on the lookout for not only that next year, but to look for some of the initiatives that Dave Mullins and Corey are doing with their championship subcommittee. I don't want to commit to anything, but there are a variety of proposals on the table, including adding multiple sites in regions, which should make it easier and more cost effective for people to play, less travel, more driving. So I think we're really in touch with the thrust of this question. So I have a two-part answer. One is I want to push back a little bit where the questioner said most times our initiatives are focused for a limited number. We don't view that, at least we don't come to work thinking that. And two, we're trying to keep moving forward. Related, the second question we got is what is the status progress for an NAIA Indoor Nationals? I can tell you, again, candidly and with transparency, that has been a little bit stalled given the pandemic, but it is certainly still on the radar screen. The next question before we open it up to the floor was, what are we doing to make college tennis more marketable and more exciting for fans as a whole? How are we growing college tennis? So if you go on our website and read the strategic plan, one of the things we talk about is telling the stories of college tennis and raising the profile. So we've tried to do that just in terms of telling the current stories. I think the implication here is that college tennis matches aren't necessarily exciting for fans. That might be a topic for all of us to discuss. Again, I will push back a little bit, believing that the current format is much more exciting than the one for years and years. Could it be more exciting? Possibly. Are many coaches doing exciting things at their matches, including community engagement? Probably. The one, in pondering how I was going to answer this, I did want to say that I don't think people should always look to the ITA to solve all the problems. I think each coach and each community and each college campus can also make their events exciting. Much like when we lost programs this year, and again, we have lost programs. I do want to say that the state of college tennis is still strong. For the first 5 years that I was the CEO, while it was not a large number, we had a net gain of programs of about 28. We've had, since the pandemic, a net loss of about 50. But I think I want to remind people we still have 1,200 schools, 1,700 programs. But even when it came to lost programs, everybody, I think, had different perceptions of the role of the ITA. Some people think that we're miraculously supposed to send a drop program $1 million so it can be saved. Some people think that just by us calling a president or a provost or a board of directors that will save a program. You should know that whether it was Minnesota or Iowa or St. Edwards or Connecticut, I mean, the ITA works very hard with programs when our services are requested. But I guess back to this issue of being marketable and more exciting, I don't think it's just, for example, for the ITA to solve this. I think all of you individually and collectively can have ideas. I have suggested, and again, we've not mandated anything, we've moved slowly, but I have suggested, for example, that Division III might want to look at its format. I was rightfully taken to task on a call where I suggested that D3 matches are always 4 or 5 hours, and I was rightfully scolded saying that's not always the case. But I do know that D3, for example, has a different student athlete experience philosophy, but I also know that different people at different divisions even raise different questions about fans in general. You know, we have people at the top of D1 who say it's all about fans. We need to be on TV. All the dual matches need to be on ESPN, like softball, etc. Everybody thinks that's easy. It's not. It could be about $40,000 a day to put a match on ESPN, but then I can have conversations with other coaches in other divisions or even in D1 who say we don't get fans, we don't care about fans. So the premise of this question is all about fans. The second part of the question, which I really want to talk about because I thought it was really a terrific question, is are there any plans for better online presence for college tennis? I already referenced the new website. I can tell you that the new website, as it continues to evolve, as Bruce Waschuk reminds me, that technology is a journey. We are going to be having things like a scoreboard. We're going to try to link have the links to all of the matches that are being streamed. We're clearly trying to upgrade how rankings and standings are presented. People asked about chat rooms and forums, and that clearly is on the planning charts with ClubSpark and the ITA's evolution. So I really appreciated that question. I would like to celebrate the progress we've made on the website and tell you to be on the lookout as it continues to get better. How are we growing college tennis? So great question. It's one of the reasons that we're going to engage a consultant and work with the USTA to try to answer that question. The kind of questions I would encourage all of you to ask yourselves is, where do I stand on my campus? Is tennis viewed in the top 3, top 25%, bottom 25%, middle 50? I continue to believe that the way to grow tennis is like growing anything. If let's take a church for example, if there's 200 people at the service and every person invites one person to church, we've doubled it and there's 400 people at church. I would ask you to look at the health index. I would ask you to get, when you talk about the question about marketability, do you know every media person in your town? Is tennis featured on sports pages in newspapers? Is it on the TV because you've worked with the local broadcaster? Is it on the radio? Do you do interviews? The ITA can't do all of this for 1,200 schools and 1,700 programs. So I think while the ITA is looking for macro answers, I think all of you should ask the same question at your on your campuses and in your communities. So I will open it up, Dave, to see if you have some other questions. Then I'll offer some closing remarks, and I think we'll be sensitive to your time and concluding right on time. So thanks to those who submitted these questions, and let's see, Dave, if you have any others.
Yeah, one question here is, will there be a minimum number of team matches played to qualify for the NCAA team tournament? Tim, I'm happy to answer that if that helps. At this point in time, they haven't set a number. If you want to join our roundtable later today, we have John Bugner joining us from the NCAA, so he'll be able to answer that, I'm sure. If you're not able to make it, please email me. I'll let you know what updates John has for us in that regard. I think we can anticipate there will be a minimum number. Hopefully you've seen the emails go out about the 500 rule, that there will be no 500 rule this year. So they are making some changes to how the NCAA tournament will be run in 2021. So next question, Tim. What are some of the benefits of continuing to put together the rules when the NCAA can do it for free? So I guess why are the ITA doing that? Aren't there other things, time, resources currently devoted to rules that could be put towards something else?
I'll take a shot at that one. Yeah, so I actually believe that, and you could ask the NCAA the question, but they've realized that tennis rules are very specific. Quite honestly, tennis is one of the only sports where the NCAA doesn't have its own rules committee. I think people know that they've put kind of a shadow rules group in to work with us. They've also changed some things that say that we can no longer make division-specific rules, but I can just tell you historically, our coaches have wanted very specific rule changes. Men's and women's coaches have wanted different bathroom break rules. We added the lets for men, quite honestly, sadly, because of cheating. Guys would hit serves and people would call them a let. I'm not sure that our coaches would get all the rules the way they wanted them if we left this to the NCAA. But I do know that our rules committees, our championships committees, and our officials do a good job. And the other answer I would give is one of the things that we inherited even before I took the job was that in 2015, the USTA determined they were no longer going to certify college tennis officials. And I know that our officials have wanted to be involved with the creation of the rules, but also then to do their webinars to make sure that the rules are actually implemented well on court. So if we were to turn this over to the NCAA, I think there could be two unintended consequences. One, that the rules would not be exactly how our coaches want, and two, that our officials might not have them implemented as well. That would be my best answer on the fly.
Sorry, I was muted there. Question here about regional rankings, assume for Division 3. Would it make sense to have regional rankings being done with each of the smaller regions rather than just in 4 regions? I'm not sure if we should direct this coach to Justin and Corey, Tim, or do you have an answer for that?
I don't have an answer, but I love when people are thinking like that, because I do think things are going to change. And not just for that specific answer, but one of my summary remarks to all of you is I don't think we're just going back to how everything was in the past. So the idea of having more smaller regions is one that I think Justin and Corey and their team should definitely consider. We want rankings to be accurate, and how we get there is important, even as we move to computer rankings in different divisions. Clearly the ITA functions, with one philosophy of the Japanese concept of Kaizen, which means constant daily improvement. If a coach has a suggestion on how to make things better, we just need to get that suggestion to the right people. And I think that Justin and Corey are the ones for sure.
Yeah, and I'll type in Justin and Corey's email address there, so this coach has it and you can contact them. Tim, I think that's it. Coaches, any other questions? It does not look like it, Tim. So if you want to give it
hearing none, again, let me thank all of you for not only being on the call, but for everything you do as teachers and leaders and mentors. You should know that in spite of the pandemic, I still believe college tennis is strong. There's clearly things we need to do to ensure its long-term sustainability. I want to thank you not only for being on the call, but thank all of you who are involved, as whether it's a regional chair or a member of an operating committee. But the fact that you're participating and engaged is really very much appreciated. We need coach engagement on a daily basis, and not just with your teams, whether it's checking out the website, being engaged on social media, sending notes to Dave or myself on how we can improve what we do. But do know that it's a great honor and joy, pleasure, and privilege to come to work each and every day on behalf of our sport and our association, our coaches, our programs, and our student athletes. So please enjoy the next 2 weeks, the roundtables, the operating committees, the virtual convention. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong. Thanks, everybody.